Thank you very much, Richard. Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our webinar today. And in the next hour, we are going to discuss about mobile testing strategy, and how you will be able to achieve robust testing and test execution, test development across iOS and Android with one script. Before diving into that, I will discuss a little bit about the mobile strategy and the approach. We are asked a lot about what is the best approach in testing mobile applications, be that web applications, mobile application, native apps. How do you utilize emulators and simulators? How do you utilize real devices? When does each one of those fit within a scenario? So Sauce Labs today is the industry's only cloud-based testing platform that offers really robust testing and offering across web and mobile applications that spans across desktops, emulators and simulators, and real device. We know new operating system versions and new devices arrive on a daily basis. Just yesterday, Android O version 8.0 was released, and users are looking to test their application against these latest versions and latest devices to ensure that their applications, be that a web application, native or hybrid, behave normally. And it's important to support this version as fast as possible, and in addition, have ability to test across devices that support it. So Sauce Labs offer web testing, which is different browsers running on desktops or native applications or web applications running on tablets or mobile devices. Native application also across different form factors, different operating systems, different models and makers. And we have full coverage across the desktops, emulators, simulators, and real devices. Next slide, please. If we look at what Gartner expects is that by 2022, 70% of software interaction in the enterprise industry will occur on mobile devices. We see these days that every one of us has a mobile device. Users span between different digital media. You start, for example, purchasing something online. You look for that on your desktop, on your laptop. You might query this device that you would like to use or to acquire. You are adding those into your testing bucket, and while you switch between the different entities, you might switch from desktop to a mobile device, getting a notification on your digital watch, etc. And we constantly throughout the day move between these different front ends, okay? And we see this already happening, and on the enterprise, be that a banking application, be that another business application or anything around the enterprise, that's what Gartner is saying, that by 70% we'll reach by 2022. Next slide, please. So our current offering for mobile, if we discuss mobile only, spans, as mentioned, across emulators, simulators, and real devices. When we are talking about emulators and simulators, we have the public cloud, which supports different Android versions and different iOS versions. When it comes to real devices, we have both public cloud and private cloud offering. Those both are supported, both for manual testing and automated testing. When you do manual testing, you can launch your web application or your native application. Disconnected, so I'm back online. So when you are testing on automated testing, you might be using the latest and greatest frameworks like Appium or Calabash, Cucumber, Espresso testing, XUI test. It depends on which type of framework you are using, and those are all supported on the real devices. Switching to the next slide, please. If we look at, again, at Gartner, and Gartner says that the recommended approach is to find a healthy mix of emulators, simulators, and real devices. So if you look at the development lifecycle across your development chain and your continuous integration cycle, you might ask the question, where does it fit? Where should I use an emulator? When should I use a simulator? And what scenario fits within real devices? And Gartner says that in order to achieve the optimal and the best way is to run across all those. Next slide. So we have this triangle on the comprehensive mobile testing and some suggestions and recommendations that will work with our customers when to fit within that. So emulators and simulators are best used when you have high volume functional tests and large integration builds. So basically with an emulator or simulator running on the cloud, you are able to spin up an unlimited amount of emulators and simulators. So if you would like to minimize the time and run high volume of that, that's where an emulator as a simulator fits there, because you can achieve high concurrency. This reduces the build times and basically enables dev teams to not block each other and achieve the fastest way possible. Device testing, real devices running on Wi-Fi networks or using different network emulations like NetM or 1M or similar tools for simulator. That's where real devices, if you have a stable feature, your application, web app, native app, or hybrid application already has reached a stable level, that's where you would like to move into real devices and try it out on different models, different operating system versions, different form factors, tablets, phones, etc. If you would like to distribute the features across different devices, if you want to execute in parallel testing across all those and test it, that's for real devices. If UX testing is very important, we know, for example, in Android, each and every vendor has its own different UX. If you will look at the latest Android 08 on Google Pixel, it looks different than what Android 7 on a Samsung Galaxy S8 will look like. So if UX testing is important, you want to see how your application, how the notification, how the integration with the operating system works, that's best and the only fit within real devices. And again, if you would like to test it on different user conditions, different network, then you can use network emulation and network simulation to test network connectivity. And last but not least, if you will actually test across different networks, cellular carrier network, like if you would like to test your application connected to a Vodafone in 3G or in T-Mobile or O2, you have the ability to use real devices using SIM cards within them, and basically you are testing real-life connection and real-life testing conditions as they are. So this is our recommendation for customers who would like to achieve the best mobile strategy and comprehensive testing within the development lifecycle. And that's the suggestions in terms of which device type to use in what level and what condition. Handing over to Eyal.
Hi everyone, thanks Asaf. I will start with the challenges faced by the QA team. I'm in a company that develops an app. I am from QA and want to test it. I don't want to only test it manually. I also want to create a set of automation tests, such as regression tests, that will run after every build and before any release. I read QA forums, consulted with colleagues, and understand that I should use Appium for my automation test. Appium is an open source tool for automating native, mobile web, and hybrid application on iOS and Android platforms. I also understand that I need to develop some code, in this example, a Java code, using IntelliJ as my IDE tool. In the Java code, I need to develop all my tests, recognize the elements inside the app, and use Appium to run my test on the device. I want my test to not only run on my local Android device, but also on other devices, such as iOS devices that may exist on the cloud. This is, for example, a snapshot of my app that runs on iPhone 7 simulator located on the Source Lab cloud. And of course, we need an easy and clear report that shows which tests run, how many tests passed, how many tests failed, and what were the issues so we can open defects if needed. In this webinar, we will teach you how to define and implement a mobile testing strategy, how to speed up writing tests using the Serenity BDD framework and the page object model. We will also teach you the challenges and solutions for developing a cross-platform mobile testing solution. And Asaf already talked about how to define and implement a mobile testing strategy. To begin with, I will introduce the page object model. Page object model is for modeling all UI components as objects to be consumed by test code, and a representation of the services offered by a page, such as click on a button or set text in an edit box. For example, for this page, there is a page object class, and each element represents a single item on the page. Also, we can see the services offered by the page, such as filling the different fields. The idea of page object model is to abstract test logic away from interaction with the WebDriver API and system under test. The reason for using the page object model is to expose services, which means we have methods such as click on a button or enter text, rather than expose that test elements themselves to the test. This allows us to write concise tests that exercise functionality but don't care about the technical implementation of the test. This also creates maintainable tests because any changes in the UI only need to be updated in the page object model, and any changes in the test logic needs to be updated in the test. And also helps that the test is readable because there are no element identifiers in the test. They are stored in a different class. There are 4 layers of abstraction when using page object model. There are the tests that define what you are going to do, and the steps that define how you are going to do it. The page objects contain the elements that define how to find the real elements and how to interact with them. The framework that I will use for the demo is Serenity BDD. Serenity is an open source Java framework. It is a complete WebDriver testing framework. It can be integrated with Cucumber, SourceLab, Appium, and other testing tools, and there is a detailed reporting in the end of the test. It is also well used across the industry. So what is the demo environment? I will run the demo on my GiftCraft app. GiftCraft is a UK mobile networking. This is the first page where the members need to log in. After the login, the member can manage their account. For example, buy a goodie bag that is the monthly package, or select to top up, and more. In the demo, I developed a basic Serenity test for logging into my GiftCraft app. The given when then that you can see here is a feature file that you can see here is a gap in language that Cucumber understands. It is a business readable language that lets you describe software's behavior without dealing how the behavior is implemented. Its 3 phases are setup, given I am not logged in, exercise, when I log in as Eyal Yovel, and the verification, then I am logged in as Eyal Yovel. I can also add more steps with and. For example, I can write when I log in as Eyal Yovel and select to remember my password, then something. The frameworks I use include Serenity, Appium, BDD, and Maven. I executed it on my Samsung Galaxy S6 device and on an iPhone 7 simulator located on the Source Lab cloud.
To clear your list or remove an item, visit the Alexa app.
So let's start with the first demo. This is a Maven project. So I have the POM XML file. This file contains the needed dependencies, such as to the Serenity, as you can see here. And we will scroll down and you can see also the dependency to Cucumber and other libraries. And there is the plugin that I need to use for Serenity BDD. Using Serenity, we can set our configuration in Serenity properties file. I created two files, one with the Android configuration and the second with the iOS configuration. In the Android configuration, we said that in the report, we want a snapshot after each step, as you can see here. The driver is Appium, the platform is Android, the application path is set to the APK file. In the iOS configuration, we set also that we will connect to Source Lab. In the feature file, we have the login test. Each step is linked to a method in the step definition layer. The step definition layer is a layer between the test and the step. Okay, we'll drill down to the step layer where we define the logic. Each method with an patient step is for taking a snapshot for the Serenity report. Okay, and how we will log in? We log in by filling the member name and password and click on the login page. And don't try to use this password. I already changed the password for my account. Okay. We will drill down to the page layer where we can see the services of the login page. For example, I click on the login button, fill the username, fill the password, and get the member name. And we can see the definition and implementation of the elements. Okay, here are the elements, the username, the password, the login, and other elements that we need to use. Let's discuss about two challenges and solutions for developing a cross-platform mobile testing solution. In most cases, we will not be able to find an element using the same identifier in Android and iOS. In Android, you can find elements by resource ID or ID. Here we can find the login element in Android using ID locator, and we can see the value that we need to use for this locator. And in iOS, we will mostly use XPath locator. In both platforms, we can use XPath and class name, but they will never be the same in both platforms. The second issue is the differences in behavior between the platforms. Even though the apps for the different platforms are built to look and behave the same way, there are platform-specific implementation and design guidelines which could lead to small differences in behavior between the platforms. So to achieve a specific test scenario, you may need to perform some extra steps in one platform compared to the other, or some steps could maybe differ a bit between the platforms. In Android, to find the member name, after the login, we need to click on the hamburger menu, and then we can find the member name. That's the Eyal Yovel. In iOS, the member name appears after the login on the main page. Solution for find element is to use the annotation Android find by and iOS find by. This is a snapshot from my demo project. Using this annotation, we will use the right locators when running on Android and iOS platform. Solution for differences in behavior. We can have different page object files for the Android and iOS pages. With this, we have the solution for both issue 1, since we have a separate page object files for Android and iOS, and issue 2, since we separate page object files can have different implementation of the same interface method used in the test. Or, before running the test, find what is the platform and run the code according to that. Here, I use the JUnit annotation before or before class to decide before running the test what is the platform. Later, we can use this information to run the correct behavior according to the platform. Now we will see a demo of the same login test run on device, on the Android device and on the iOS device. So this is my real Android device. And this is Appium desktop. I can also run Android from the command line and open it from the test. But here for the demo, I start the Appium server before the run. This is my framework name using Maven command with a parameter to indicate that the test will run on my local Android device. The test trial. I open the Appium in my device so we can take a look. Okay. Okay, so the test run. The app is loaded. The member name and password are set. Click on the login, and the test verifies that the member logged in. The test completed, and I can see that it passed. I will open the Serenity BDD report. And here I can see a very clear and readable report. We can see all the steps and the status of each step. And there is a snapshot after each step. Just double click on one of the snapshots. Now I will run the same test on iOS device. I run iOS device from the source cloud. Therefore, I don't need my local Appium server, and I close it. I will change my parameter to indicate that I run on iOS platform. And I will run the test. I will open the source cloud dashboard. Okay, open the dashboard. And watch the test execution in real time. And again, as we saw on Android, we set the member name, the password, click on the login. The test verify that the member is really logged in, this time on different page. Okay, when the test complete, we will open the Serenity report, as we did before. So as before, I can see what was the result of each step and that the test passed. And here, I also have a link to Source Lab, as you can see here, where can I watch videos of the run. Just a moment. So I can watch videos of the run, and you can see all the commands and requested that were done. That's it for me. And back to Richard.
Okay, thank you so much, Eyal. And well, we are now going to begin answering the questions submitted during today's presentation. And as a reminder to the audience, you can still submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. Let's start with the first question here. Eyal, that first question is for you. Can I use Serenity alone without Cucumber or JBehave? I have a test framework for API automation that uses JBehave. I want to extend it for a mobile app automation.
Serenity, the question was about Serenity BDD. First of all, there is a really nice guideline in the internet about Serenity BDD. So I use that in Cucumber, but it can use it in other frameworks. But to make sure, you can read in the Serenity BDD documentation. But in my opinion, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Eyal. The next one is for you as well, Eyal. Does Serenity support TestNG?
Yes. It supports
okay.
TestNG and it supports other frameworks.
That was a short one. And yeah. The other one, can we access the example code somewhere?
The example code that I show now? So I think that if the question is about probably I can create a demo and send it after the webinar.
Okay, good. So otherwise, if you would like to add something to the question, please just type it in. The next question for you, Eyal. What tool should we use for the element identification?
There are different tools. The tools that I use for the demo are tools that are built in Appium. So whenever I connect from Appium to the Android device, it's already open open the right tool to identify the elements in iOS or in Android. So it's a built-in tool inside the Appium.
I will be happy to elaborate on that. So the Appium Desktop, as was shown also by Eyal, Appium Desktop, the latest version, supports iOS and Android with object spy capabilities that you can inspect elements both on local devices, or it can also be emulators and simulators, as well devices that are on the cloud. It can be in iOS and Android devices that are emulators and simulator on Sauce Labs, and it can also use the test object real devices of Sauce Labs also from Appium Desktop. It's just a matter of setting the parameters, and you will be able to inspect the objects of any application.
Okay, thank you both for this answer. The next one to Eyal, how to identify the type of the app under test, like native or hybrid type?
Again, just one, I will search for what tools.
How to identify the type of the app under test, like native or hybrid?
How to identify, probably we should know that from the developers, because we are in a company that the developers develop the app, so we should know from the developer what is the app that they develop. Asaf, do you have something to add?
Yes, so it can also be used again with Appium Desktop. With Appium Desktop, you will see the object tree of the native application, and within that, if it is a hybrid application, you will see a web view and the object tree there. And for the web view, basically, you can use common tools like the Chrome developer tools, Chrome Inspect, to identify the actual objects, which are basically HTML within the native application. So if it's a native application, you will also only see the objects of the native app. If it's a hybrid, you will see one or more web views within your application.
Okay, thank you. The next one, for a hybrid mobile app, do we need to maintain separate page object classes for iOS and Android?
Yeah, I can pick this up. Yeah, sure. So a page object basically lists all the objects that are visible within a page. A native application will have its own. These will be different objects, page objects per different operating system, how the native apps and the native objects look like. When it's a hybrid application with web view, it's better to have a page objects relevant for that, because it will apply on both operating system as this is an HTML. So it's better to have that as well.
Okay, great. Another one, when is it better to choose between different page object models or checking the platform?
Eyal, you want to pick this up?
Yeah, in my opinion, it really depends on the changes between the iOS and Android devices. If it's small changes, so I think that the demo that I show here is the best, because you just from time to time need to say, okay, now it's Android, let's just run this line. But if the behavior is totally different, so it will be better to have a separate page object for Android and for iOS platform.
Okay, thank you. And another one, I would like to have a GitHub link of project so I can build by taking an example. Yeah, sorry, I would like to have a GitHub link of a project so I can build by taking an example.
This is very much related to the question that was asked before. We will put the sample code with Eyal on a sample repository, and we can send it to all registrants post the webinar as a link to the GitHub.
Yeah,
okay.
Send it. Yeah, exactly.
Good, thank you. Another one, the HTML report looks great. Can I extend the current in-house framework for the demoed HTML report?
I don't quite sure that I understand the question, but the HTML report is a Serenity report that is built in Serenity. And the question was about, again?
Can I extend the current in-house framework for the demoed HTML report?
I need to check. I don't know the answer for that.
Okay. The next one is for Asaf, I guess. Is it possible to test run on iOS device or simulator from Windows using Appium?
Yeah, if you are testing against the cloud, like test object and Source Labs cloud real devices on emulator and simulator, you can use it from any desktop. It can be your Windows machine, it can be Linux or Mac. If you are testing against iOS devices, simulators, or real devices locally, you must use Mac machine because the local Appium requires Xcode, and Xcode is only available on Mac. So if you are looking to work from Windows, the solution for that is working against devices in the cloud.
And I just want to add that my demo I created on Windows machines, and that was also the reason that I use Source Labs, because I can't use iOS devices on my Windows machine.
Okay, thank you both. Another one here, I think for Eyal. Is the iOS Find By implemented in .NET for XCUI test framework?
My experience is with Java, but in my opinion, it also supports .NET. So in my opinion, yes, but we need to check.
There was another question that was arriving, and the question was, can we integrate ApplyTools Visual Eyes with a framework? So basically, since these are standard Java or Cucumber or different frameworks, you can integrate visual ApplyTools Eyes within the testing framework and extend it as well. Again, against local devices or also running on devices on the cloud. It is very much doable.
Okay, thanks. The next one, if elements are changing for iOS and Android of an app, can we use the same script?
I think that this is a good question, because that's exactly what the page object model is for. It's for separate the layers. So whenever there are changes in the elements, we just need to change them in the page object class, and we don't need to change the test or the steps. So we just in one place need to change the recognitions and to identify the new elements or to change the current elements.
Okay, thank you. The next one, not quite sure, maybe we already got this one, but could you place the sample code you came up with on Source Labs GitHub site on the sample code directory, please?
Yes, I assume that this is the same, but yes, later on we will we'll put everything on GitHub and we will share with all the audience.
Okay, thank you. Can we use one script for Android and iOS to test the app without using Serenity BDD?
Yes, of course. Serenity BDD is a framework above what we saw in the demo. The Serenity BDD is just that it will be easier to develop with nice support, but the page, we can do and create one script without the Serenity BDD.
Okay, thanks. Next one, I guess, is for you, Asaf. Does the Source Labs dashboard support native apps as well now and replaces the test object dashboard?
Yeah, so what we are now implementing, and this soon to be released within a couple of weeks, we are going to integrate the manual testing experience that is available in test object within sourcelabs.com. Today, sourcelabs.com is all around web testing, be that desktop web or emulators and simulators, and we are taking the manual experience, everything that is possible from test object, and building that into Source Labs. So within Source Labs, you will have the ability to select web applications and native applications, desktop web, emulators and simulators, and real devices for web, and native application for real devices. And later on, we will also adopt and enhance the native application also in manual testing for emulators and simulator. This is coming within a very few short weeks.
Okay, thank you. Asaf, next one is for you as again. Can we integrate Apple tools Visualize with your framework for GUI testing?
Yeah, that's the question which I mentioned before. Yeah, this is possible and no issue against local devices and also devices in the cloud, yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Is it possible to connect or inject test executions inside test management systems, e.g. HP, ALM, Sapphire, etc.?
So it depends if there is a plugin dedicated for this solution to do it like that. Yeah, it depends on the tool itself.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Next one is for Eyal again. Did you experience any slowness using Serenity also as it introduces one more layer between Cucumber steps and the page objects?
No, the Serenity BDD is not making any the detector run slower. No, and adding other more layers is there's no reason that it will make the test that it will run slower.
Okay, thanks.
So no.
No, okay. Next one for Asaf. Can I use tests written in Java if my application is written using native script framework?
Yeah, no, it's not an issue. The testing scenario, the testing language has nothing to do with what version or what type of framework the application is developed. So it can be an application developed in JavaScript or in Java or in Objective-C, and it can be tested in PHP, in Python, Perl, Ruby, Java, etc. It has nothing to do.
Okay, thanks. Next one for Eyal. Which tool is used for mirroring an Android device on screen?
I use TeamViewer. So I install TeamViewer on my machines and TeamViewer on my device. And there is a session key that I need to copy to the machines, and I can see what happened in Android. But there are different tools. But TeamViewer is a free tool for private use.
Okay. Thank you for this, Eyal. And another one. How mature is the support for JavaScript in Serenity? There are other frameworks you will suggest to test desktop Android and iOS hybrid apps in JavaScript? Oh, sorry, yeah. Are there other frameworks? Yeah, that was the question.
I'm familiar with framework like there are TestNG, there is Serenity BDD, there is a JUnit that I'm familiar. Asaf, do you know about other frameworks?
No.
No, yeah.
Okay. Then next one for Asaf. What about parallel execution on Android devices which are connected locally? How do we execute particular scenarios in particular devices when devices are connected in GRID?
So let's take an example. Again, if we are talking locally and only Android, with iOS, parallel execution locally is basically not possible. That's a limitation, and the only way is to use the cloud solution like Sauce Labs. If you are testing locally with Android, you can create a grid and you can create your testing framework. Let's take, for example, with TestNG. And with TestNG, you can define different data providers, and each data provider will have different ID of the device. Like if it's a local device or an emulator and simulator, you will get the ID from ADB. And then with the data provider, you can allocate in parallel one test or several tests across multiple devices. It's a tedious setup. Devices are not stable when they are running locally like that. And that's why we recommend using the cloud, but with some effort, it is doable. Android only again.
Okay, thank you. The next one for you, Asaf. Can I test against native camera in Sauce Labs?
Yeah, our camera is functional on the cloud, the real device camera. Basically, it just points like to some paper or within the data center, and you cannot really take your picture, okay? But you can activate the camera if you want to see that your application is able to launch the camera, take some snapshot either from the front or the back camera. It is doable and supported.
Okay, thanks. And the next one, can we run both Android and iOS simultaneously?
If it's on a Mac machine, a local Mac machine, that you can run one iOS and one or more Android, again, the setup is tedious. If you are running against test object or source labs in the cloud, you are able to spin up basically unlimited number of devices. It all depends on your license and how much concurrent session you can open in parallel.
Okay, thank you. And one for Eyal. How actually screenshots are taken? Is it possible? No, sorry. Okay, so how are actual screenshots taken? Is it a process done by Serenity?
Yes, the snapshots are taken by the Serenity BDD. As you noticed in the definition of the Serenity properties file, I defined that I want a snapshot after each step. I can define that I want it also before each step or before and after. And in the step file, I use the annotation step. So each method with the annotation step, it's for Serenity that it will take a snapshot after running this method.
Thank you. And one for Asaf. Can I test a video calling application using Source Labs clouds?
Yes, it is very much related to the question about taking an image. So the camera is functional. You can take video, and you can test your video application with it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Asaf. Just check in once again, but it seems we're done with the questions. So any questions that we might have skipped or weren't answered will be answered afterwards. So I guess that's it, Asaf, Eyal. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Thank you, Eyal.
Thank you both, and thank you for your time. Thank you for presentations, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. One test to rule them all, conquer Android and iOS with one script. Once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we would appreciate if you would complete that and provide your feedback. You will also receive a follow-up email within 24 to 48 hours with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. On behalf of Source Labs and our presenters, thank you for joining us today and enjoy the rest of your day.